G'day guys. Today we're going to be taking a look at how you can read plain text or simplified HTML ebooks on your GB300 and SF2000 handhelds. The program we'll be using is called Pixie GBA, and as the name implies, it is designed for the Game Boy Advanced. We'll be focusing on the GB300 today, but the steps are identical for both handhelds. We'll also be using custom Multicore, but it's not needed and you can do this on stock firmware. We're over on our Windows 10 computer now. We're just going to be downloading our Pixie GBA files from gamebrew.org. I will put a direct link in the description below. On this page, we just want to scroll down a little bit. And on the right hand side, under links, it should say download. Just click that. It should automatically start downloading. It's not very big, 1.6 meg. We'll also need some test ebooks. I'll just be using a Donkey Kong Country 2 text guide, which we have already downloaded. If you don't already have it, you'll also need to download 7-zip from 7zip.org, since the download is in 7Z compression. On the 7-zip page, just download the correct version for your computer, most likely 64-bit, the top one. Once it's finished downloading, double click on it to install and follow the on-screen prompts. Once everything's finished downloading, we can close off Chrome and open up our downloads folder. Inside, we should have our Pixie GBA 7-zip file. Just right-click on it, go to 7-zip, go to Extract to Pixie GBA. Once it's finished extracting, we want to open up the folder. Inside, you should have two more zip files, Pixie GBA Beta 2 and Pixie Tools. We want to extract Pixie GBA Beta 2. Again, you can just right-click on it and go to Extract to. Once it's finished extracting, we want to open up that folder. Open up the folder inside, and here are the main tools we'll be using. Since only simplified HTML is supported, and most HTML ebooks you download online are no longer simple HTML, we won't cover that today. Instead, we'll be using plain text. We want to open up the root folder, and inside you should have a books folder. We'll open that up. This is where you'll place your plain text files. As mentioned, for this test, we'll be using a Donkey Kong Country 2 strategy guide from Game FAQs. Going to go to downloads, we'll copy it over, DKC2, and we'll paste it in the books folder. We'll open it up in text editor just so we can see what we're working with, and here it is here. One thing I've noticed is it does not like more than 17 dashes in a row. So you can see here we have around 25. Unfortunately, this will crash the ebook reader on your handheld. An easy way to fix this is to do Control H, which is find replace. Under find what, I want to type in 17 dashes, and under replace with, I'll enter around 5. We'll click replace all, and just for good measure, we'll click replace all once again. We'll close out of the find replace dialog box, and I will save it as a copy so we can take a look at what happens if we try to open it with more than 17 dashes on our handheld. Now, if we go back to our main Pixie GBA folder, this one here, there are some included ebooks. If we open up HTML, we can see there's Huckleberry Finn, Oliver Twist, and Pride and Prejudice. These are all simplified HTML, and if we open it in Notepad, you can see it is using very simple markup. We'll close out of this, go back to the main Pixie GBA folder once more. In this folder, there are 3 important batch files that you may need to use. The first one, makebooks.bat, is only used if you are using simplified HTML ebooks. It converts them into plain textbooks that the Game Boy Advance reader can handle. If we open it up in a text editor, which is always a good habit for batch files, you can see it uses the included tools to convert all the files listed at the bottom of this batch file. If you did want to add your own HTML file, you could simply copy and paste the bottom line and change the file names to match yours. So instead of Pride and Prejudice, you could call it test, and again, Pride and Prejudice.html, change that to test. You would then save this and run it if you wanted to use your own books. Since we didn't add any HTML books, we won't be using this. We'll just go exit. And since I do want to show off the included HTML ebooks, I will run this once so it converts them. Just double click on it and it should close once finished. We'll skip over the make fonts batch file for now. And instead we'll go down to makerom.bat. Once again, we'll open it in Notepad just to see what it's doing. And it seems to be adding the ebooks we've converted into the stock e-reader ROM. So we'll close this off and we'll double click on makerom.bat. It should generate a new file called flashme.gba. This is our compiled ROM full of our ebooks. I'm going to rename it to ebooks.gba just so it's easier to find on our handheld. Now, as mentioned, there is a third batch file, makefonts.bat. By default, the ebook reader only uses the built-in font, which is okay, but it's not great on the eyes. Running makefonts.bat does add a bunch of fonts from your Windows system into the fonts folder in this tool, and it does try and decide which one to use when compiling the Game Boy Advance ROM. This may sound confusing, but basically if you don't run makefonts.bat, it uses its stock font, and if you do run it, it does use a much nicer font. I will run makefonts.bat and we'll compare the two files it generates. So just click on it. This can take a little while depending on the speed of your system. Once it's finished running, it should automatically close. You only need to run the batch file once to copy the fonts over, and it'll automatically use them for every ebook you generate in the future. So once again, we'll go makerom.bat and it should generate a fresh ebook file using the new fonts. You can see it did flashme.gba. I'll call this one Ebooks Fonts. That's pretty much all there is to it. Just going to insert the SD card from my handheld into my cheap USB reader, pop it into the computer, and I want to copy both Game Boy Advance files it created, so ebooks and ebooksfonts.gba. Just select them both and press Ctrl-C. Next, we'll go to our SD card we just inserted. Since I'm using Multicore, I'll go to ROMs, go down to the GBA folder, and I'll paste both ROMs in here. Once they finish copying, I'll go back once more to the root of the SD card and double-click make romlist.bat. Once it's finished, press any key, and from here, we'll safely eject our SD card and put it back into our GB300. With our ROMs copied over, we've turned our handheld back on. We want to go down to the games list folder. It says ROMs, press A. These are all of our custom core ROMs that we've created. And you can see we've got ebooks and ebooks fonts. We'll start off with ebooks, and here's our main ebooks menu. You can see we've got DKC2, DKC2 Fixed, Huckleberry Finn, Oliver Twist, and Pride and Prejudice. To open an ebook, just press start on it. So the first one we'll open is our DKC2 strategy guide, which does contain more than 17 consecutive dashes. See what that looks like. So it starts off fine. Press right to go to the next page or left to go to the previous page. And as you can see, when it reaches the text with more than 17 consecutive dashes, it does crash. It is completely frozen. Next, we'll load up our fonts ebook. This is the one with the fonts that we did generate before creating the ebook file. We'll see the difference. So the main menu does look pretty much the same. We'll go down to Oliver Twist and we'll see what that looks like. So you can see the font is much nicer. It's a little bit larger, but it is much easier to read. Also, you can see the HTML does have different text sizes, which is not possible using plain text. You might also notice at the very top of the screen, it has the current page number and the total number of pages. The total pages does increase as we scroll pages. That is because it is still indexing. The controls are pretty simple. Select goes back to the main menu. Start selects an ebook. Left and right changes one page at a time. Up and down changes chapters, so you can see chapter 1 if I press down, chapter 2, press up again, back to chapter 1. Again, this is only possible if you use a compatible simple HTML file. A jumps to the very start of the book, and B jumps to the very end of the book. Although this ebook reader is not ideal, and it is pretty limited with what files it supports, at least it does let you read certain books on the go. I think that'll do it for today. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.